now in the studio is Malcolm Day. Malcolm is an author and has recently released the book The Making of a Ginger Nut, Nature or Nurture. Malcolm, welcome, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Lois.
How are you this lunchtime?
Fine, thank you.
Lovely. So, The Making of a Ginger Nut, Nature or Nurture. Why did you call it that?
Well, the book is an autobiography of the early years of my life, written around the many childhood memories that I had growing up. And these were memories of a cheeky ginger-haired lad who had a poor but happy childhood, growing up in the 1950s and 60s on the Cranmore estate in Shirley on the edge of Solihull.
So what made you want to write the book in the first place?
I think there are quite a few reasons, but the main reason was the premature death of my father in 1983. He died from lung cancer after quite a short illness at the age of 59, just a few months before he was due to retire. And my daughter was only one at the time and my son wasn't even born, so I thought it was quite sad that they'd perhaps grow up never knowing who their granddad was and the type of person. And I'd had a similar experience growing up. I never knew my granddad on my dad's side, never met him, never knew him, for a completely different reason, but I felt there was a gap in the sort of the history of the family and that, and I didn't want my children to have that as well, so I thought what better way to let them know than to put it down in a book for them to read, to pass on to their children and hopefully in time their children's children.
So you cover all your memories then, don't you?
There are probably too many memories to put in the book, but they are most of the memories. So they're memories about school days, about home life, about the trouble and the scrapes I got into. My mum was always saying I got more lives than a cat. And then there are lots of memories about the people who influenced my life. So my parents are in there, as are my granddad and my uncle, who had a big influence on the way that I was brought up.
Yeah. I mean, and it is a real rags to riches tale, isn't it?
I wouldn't say exactly rags to riches, but it is a different life now from what it was back then. I mean, it probably wasn't, I didn't feel as though I was poor back then. I think Mum and Dad protected us from it. Okay. And looking back, they probably, it was a struggle for them. Mum used to cut our hair and make our clothes. Many a time I can remember sitting late on a Sunday night, cutting out patterns and making clothes for us to wear on the Monday morning. And Dad was very good at improvising. He could fix it, although he'd never been trained, he could fix anything. He'd take it apart and put it back together and repair it, because that's what they had to do. Yeah.
And I mean, the way, you know, that your life has gone, you say nature or nurture. I mean, you went on for a successful career with a Midlands-based FTSE 100 company.
Yeah.
Do you think nature or nurture? I mean, have you decided?
I think you'll have to read the book to find out all the answers, but I think there's a lot of it is nature. We've all got the potential to do something well in our lives, but I think very often it needs nurture to actually bring that out and develop it. You know, I often think that when I was at school, I represented the school at most sports, but I never had the opportunity to join a club, or I never had the right equipment to use. And I just wonder that if I'd had that extra help and assistance, would I have been good at a sport? Because I was sort of like a jack of all sports but master of none. I represented the school at most sports, but I was never the best.
I mean, what would you say to those people that, you know, maybe are from disadvantaged backgrounds and they think, oh, you know, well, I haven't got a start in life, so I can't make anything of it? Yeah,
I think go for it, really. You do need, I think, encouragement. I think today it's parents encourage their children a lot more. I mean, certainly my parents, although they looked after us and they loved us, it was in a time when people never encouraged you. So.
And so we've been talking back over your book and what it's all about. One of your selling points, you say, on the book really is your wit and sense of humour. But it was developed when you were at school, is that right?
Yeah, it was really. I think I said that it's had sort of fairly major impact on the way that my life has turned out, because when I started school, I was a prime candidate for being bullied. I'd got ginger hair, My mum used to cut my hair, so it wasn't the best style. My mum used to make our clothes, so my clothes were different. I stood out from the rest. So for the first 6 months or so, I was actually not exactly bullied, but well, I suppose it was bullying really. I was excluded from the gangs and the games that the other lads used to play. And I soon developed and used my sense of humour to actually deflect attention away from myself.
Yeah.
So I used to have the humour to make my classmates laugh, and sometimes to deflect it back onto the bullies themselves, so that the attention was away from me. And it soon worked, and I was part of the class then, and that was fine until I went to the senior school. I went to a grammar school in Solihull. I was one of only 2 from the Cranmore estate that was in that year at the grammar school. I was the only one in my class, so all the other lads were from the better off areas of Shirley and Solihull. And again, to become part of the class, I used my humour. My dad and my uncle were already starting to tell me jokes, which I used to take in and make the lads laugh. I don't think the teachers were that impressed by the sense of humour and the wisecracks that I always came out with. In fact, often they were more intent on handing out a beating with a slipper than handing out advice on how to improve my writing.
And this sense of humour, does it come out in the book then?
Yeah, there's, as I say, there's lots of stories in the book about laughter, fun. There's some sadness, some pain, and the occasional tears. But it's all been written with plenty of humour in mind.
So we really go on a journey with you. I mean, how long did it take you to write the book?
It was. I was surprised how quickly it took, actually. It took me about 12 months to actually get the words down onto, I won't say paper, but into the laptop.
Yeah.
And that wasn't full time, that was perhaps 2 or 3 hours at a time for up to 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah. But having said that, I'd done a lot of preparation before. So for 4 years, I'd had this little notebook at the side of my bed, which my daughter had bought me, specifically for this task. So that every time I jumped into bed at night, I used to jot down memories and things that had come to me. But I thought, well, I can include that in the book. Yeah. And then I'd spend 10 or 15 minutes thinking, yeah, I'm building on the idea. So really, it was a bit of sort of a personal brainstorm. Yeah. And then I put all the ideas into a theme and decided upon chapters and formats and what order they should come in. And once that happened, then it just seems to make it. Yeah, the preparation, I think, was a key to it happening so easily. I mean,
and obviously you talk about Shirley because that's where you grew up. How have you seen Shirley change over the years?
Well, I've been there all my life, all but for a couple of years, and really Shirley hasn't changed that much. I mean, they've knocked down the cinema and various other places and built new shops, but the parade itself is actually very similar. Apart from recently, they've built a new park gate, which is hopefully will actually re-energise Shirley itself. Yeah. But a lot of my childhood was brought up just a bit further down the road with my grandparents' house, who had it was called Home Farm on the Stratford Road in Monksbath. Yeah. And that's completely changed. When I went to my grandparents', it was one of perhaps half a dozen houses and farms and farmland, whereas now it's a huge sprawling estate and you wouldn't recognise it at all.
So completely different.
Completely different.
I mean, and the book, it's been on sale since December, hasn't it?
Yep.
Where can people get it from?
It's available on, can I mention names? Yeah, it's on Amazon as a paperback. Yeah. It's also available in an e-book as well, so for your Kindle or your mobile phone. You can get it from the publishers, Spiderwise, or any good
retailer.
Retail
and
store in
just before we go, what would be your favourite memory from the book, would you say?
There's lots of them. There's so many. You've
got to pick one.
I've got to pick one. Yeah, I suppose one of the stories is I went when I was at school. I went on a mountaineering course, a mountain centre with a school, and you had to have boots.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't afford, my family couldn't afford boots, and so my dad got me some hockey trainers and covered them in polyurethane coating. They were fine for a day, but after that they just leaked and soaked like a sponge, so my feet got wet and cold.
All right, brilliant. Well, Malcolm, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
That's okay, it's a pleasure, thank you.
And the book is out now.